So hey guys. The series name is What If Naruto Become the Strongest Trainer in Pokemon, so let's start began the story. The morning sun crested the hills east of Pallet Town, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the tall trees bordering Route 1, carrying with it the scent of wild grass and adventure. For Sasuke Uchiha, this sunrise marked not just a new day, but the beginning of his entire future. He stood at the edge of town, a single, well-worn backpack slung over his shoulder. His dark blue shirt was neat, his black shorts practical, and his expression, as always, was carefully controlled. In his hand, he clutched a small, red and white device, a Pokédex, brand new and empty, a symbol of his new journey. Around his neck, tucked beneath his shirt, hung a simple leather cord with a single, smooth pebble. It was a memento from his mother, a small comfort against the weight he carried. That weight was the legacy of his brother, Itachi. Itachi Uchiha. The name was spoken with reverence in every Pokemon League, every trainer school, every corner of the Kanto and Johto regions. The reigning Pokemon champion, undefeated in countless battles, a master of strategy and power. To the world, Itachi was a legend. To Sasuke, he was the shadow he could never escape. You're up early. Sasuke didn't turn. He knew the voice. Couldn't sleep. Naruto Uzumaki jogged up beside him, a vibrant splash of orange in the gentle morning light. His own backpack looked like it was about to burst, with a frying pan dangling from one side and a well-loved stuffed Pokemon doll, a gift from a kind stranger when he was young, poking out of the top. His grin was so wide it looked like it might split his face. Me neither. I've been waiting for this my whole life, believe it, he declared, his voice full of an energy Sasuke couldn't quite fathom. We're finally gonna be Pokemon trainers. We're gonna travel, and battle, and get all the badges, and I'm gonna be champion one day. Even stronger than the Uchiha guys. Sasuke finally glanced at him, a flicker of irritation in his dark eyes. Naruto always said things like that without a hint of self-doubt. It was both annoying and, Sasuke had to admit, a little admirable. Poof. You'll have to get past me first. That's the spirit, a cheerful voice chimed in. Sakura Haruno approached, her bright pink hair tied back in a practical ponytail. She looked more prepared than either of them, with a neat travel bag, a small case for contest accessories, and a confident smile. She had always been the organized one, the book-smart one. We should get going. Professor Oak doesn't like to be kept waiting. Right. Naruto punched a fist into the air. Let's go get our Pokemon. The three of them walked the short path to Professor Oak's laboratory, a large, white building bustling with researchers and the soft sounds of Pokemon. The professor himself, a kindly old man with a shock of white hair, greeted them at the door. Ah, my new trainers. Right on time. His eyes twinkled as he led them inside. Sakura, Naruto, Sasuke. Today, you take your first step into a larger world. The lab was filled with marvels, machines that tracked Pokemon migration patterns, screens showing real-time data from the region, and a large, open enclosure at the back where several Pokemon played. On a table before them sat 3 standard Pokeballs on a sleek, metallic stand. Now, Professor Oak said, his tone becoming a little more serious. The bond between a trainer and their first Pokemon is a special one. It will shape your journey and your understanding of the world. Choose wisely, not for strength, but for the partner you feel a connection with. Sasuke's eyes were drawn immediately to the enclosure. He saw a Charmander, basking under a heat lamp, its tail flame burning brightly. It was powerful, a symbol of fiery ambition. He could see Naruto gravitating toward it, his eyes wide. But then his gaze shifted. In a quieter corner, away from the other two, sat a single Pokemon. It was a Riolu, small and blue, with black markings on its face and a spike on its chest. It wasn't playing or basking. It was just sitting, its red eyes staring intently at a small, smooth stone it held in its paws. It looked focused, determined, and utterly alone. An image flashed in Sasuke's mind. Himself, as a child, sitting alone on the Uchiha estate's porch, staring at the empty space where his brother used to sit and train with him. The feeling of waiting, of wanting to prove himself, of being lost in a giant's shadow. Oi, Sasuke. I'm gonna pick the cool one. Naruto yelled, already pointing at the Charmander. I'll take the Bulbasaur, Sakura said thoughtfully, her eyes on the small, reptilian Pokemon with the bulb on its back. It has a calm disposition and great strategic potential for contests. Sasuke ignored them. He walked towards the quiet corner and knelt down, a few feet away from the Riolu. The little Pokemon looked up, its red eyes meeting his. There was no fear, no eagerness to please. Just a quiet, assessing gaze. Sasuke didn't offer a hand immediately. He just looked at the stone the Riolu held. What's that? He asked, his voice low. The Riolu looked down at the stone, then back at Sasuke. It seemed to understand the question. It held the stone out, a silent offering. Sasuke gently took it. It was just a river stone, smooth and gray. It's a good rock, Sasuke said quietly, turning it over. It's got a strong shape. Feels solid. A tiny flicker of something appeared in the Ryolu's eyes. Interest. Sasuke handed the stone back. My name is Sasuke. The Ryolu stared for a long moment. Then, slowly, it stood up and took a step towards him. It was a small gesture, but it was everything. Sasuke felt a strange warmth in his chest. He looked back at Professor Oak, who was watching with a gentle smile, and gave a small nod. The professor walked over and handed him an empty pokeball. The Ryolu has been here for a while. It's very perceptive, sensitive to the emotions of others. It seems to have been waiting for someone who understood that. Sasuke looked at the pokeball, then back at the Ryolu. He didn't want to trap it. He just held out the ball. The Ryolu reached out a small paw and touched the button on the front. It was absorbed in a flash of red light. The ball wiggled once. Twice. Then, with a soft click, it was still. Sakura had chosen her Bulbasaur, which she was already examining with a knowledgeable eye. Naruto was practically vibrating with joy, his Charmander balanced happily on his shoulder, its tail flame tickling his blonde hair. All right. Let's go. Let's go. First battle. Me and Sasuke. Right now. We just got them, Naruto, Sakura sighed. They need time to adjust. But Sasuke was already looking at Naruto, a familiar competitive fire in his eyes. He pressed the button on his own Pokeball, and the Ryolu materialized in front of him. It looked around, took in its surroundings, and then looked up at Sasuke, ready. Outside. Now. They found a small clearing just off the main path leading out of Pallet Town. It was a simple, grassy area, perfect for a first battle. Naruto was practically bouncing on his heels. Alright, Charmander, let's show him what we're made of. Naruto yelled. The little lizard dropped into a fighting stance, its claws out, its tail flame burning a little brighter. Sasuke stood opposite him, calm and still. He looked down at Ryolu. This is our first battle. Don't hold back. Trust your instincts. The Ryolu gave a short, sharp cry of affirmation, its small body tensing, its paws raised in a fighting pose. It was a natural. Begin. Sakura called out, acting as referee. Charmander, use Scratch. Naruto commanded immediately. The little lizard darted forward, its claws extended. Sasuke's mind was a whirl of information. He'd studied battle tapes of his brother for years. Speed, prediction, counterattack. Ryolu, dodge to the side and use quick attack. Ryolu moved like a blue blur, far faster than Charmander. It easily sidestepped the scratch attack and, with a burst of speed, slammed its shoulder into Charmander's side. The little lizard stumbled, letting out a surprised cry. Whoa! Naruto's eyes went wide. Okay, use Ember. Charmander turned, opening its mouth and launching a small ball of fire. Counter with foresight, Sasuke instructed calmly. Ryolu's eyes glowed briefly. Now, dodge and use quick attack again. Ryolu's movements were now even more precise, as if it could predict the path of the ember. It weaved around the small fireball and shot forward, hitting Charmander again, this time square in the chest. Charmander was thrown back, landing on the grass with a soft thump. It struggled to get up, its tail flame flickering, but it was clearly exhausted. That's enough. Sakura said, stepping between them. Charmander can't battle anymore. Sasuke and Ryolu are the winners. Naruto was on his knees in an instant, scooping up his Charmander. Hey, buddy, are you okay? I'm sorry. That was my fault, I gotta be better. His voice was full of genuine concern. Charmander opened its eyes and gave a weak cry, nuzzling into Naruto's chest. Naruto sighed with relief, a huge grin returning to his face. Man, you're tough, Sasuke. But next time, we're gonna win, believe it. Sasuke walked over to his Ryolu. The little Pokemon was panting, but its eyes were bright, filled with a new kind of fire. It had listened, it had fought, it had won. Sasuke knelt down and, after a moment of hesitation, gently placed a hand on its head. Good job, he said quietly. The Ryolu leaned into the touch, its eyes closing for a brief second. As they walked away from the clearing, heading north towards the first town on their journey, Sakura fell into step beside Sasuke. That was impressive, she said. Your strategy was really good for a first battle. It was nothing, Sasuke muttered, but he felt a small, unfamiliar feeling of pride. He glanced down at the Pokeball in his hand. For the first time, the road ahead didn't just feel like a path out of his brother's shadow. It felt like a path into his own light. And for the first time in a long time, he wasn't walking it alone. The journey to Viridian City was a short one, but for new trainers, every step was a lesson. Route 1 was a gentle introduction to the world, a path lined with rustling grass where wild Pidgey and Rattata occasionally appeared. For Sasuke, it was a training ground. He and Ryolu moved in a silent rhythm. Sasuke would spot a wild Pokemon, observe its behavior, and then issue a quiet command. Ryolu, in turn, executed each order with a growing precision that was astonishing. They didn't just battle, they learned. Ryolu learned to anticipate Sasuke's thoughts, and Sasuke learned to read the subtle shifts in Ryolu's stance, the flicker in its eyes that signaled its intent. Meanwhile, a short distance behind them, the sounds of chaos reigned. Charizard, I choose you. Oh, wait, you're not a Charizard yet. Okay, Charmander, use Ember again. No, wait, that one's running away. Get it. Sasuke could hear Sakura's exasperated sighs even from 100 feet away. Naruto's enthusiasm was boundless, but his focus was, to put it kindly, scattered. He'd try to battle every Pokemon they saw, often forgetting the most basic strategies. Charmander, for its part, seemed to share its trainer's spirited but slightly clueless nature, often ending up more confused than its opponents. Sakura, in contrast, was a picture of calm competence. Her Bulbasaur, which she'd named Midori, was responding beautifully to her gentle but firm commands. She was already practicing for contests, having Midori use Vine Whip to artfully arrange fallen leaves into patterns, or to gently tap berries from high branches without bruising them. As the sun began its afternoon descent, the high walls of Viridian City came into view. It was a bustling metropolis compared to sleepy Pallet Town, dominated by the massive structure of the Viridian Gym. Just seeing it made Sasuke's pulse quicken. A real gym, with a real leader, a real test. This was the first step on the ladder to the league. To Itachi. But their first stop wasn't the gym. It was the Viridian City Pokemon Center. The building was a beacon of warmth and healing, its glass doors sliding open to reveal a clean, bright interior. A cheerful woman in a pink nurse's uniform, Nurse Joy, greeted them from behind the counter. Rows of identical-looking Chansey bustled about, carrying trays of medicine and gently tending to injured Pokemon. Welcome to the Viridian City Pokemon Center, she chimed. Do you need to heal your Pokemon? They handed over their Pokeballs, and Sasuke watched as Nurse Joy placed them in a sophisticated machine. Within minutes, the balls were returned, fully restored. The efficiency was impressive. While they waited, Naruto had immediately gravitated towards a young trainer battling on a console in the corner, already making a new friend and a new rival. Sakura was browsing a small stand of Poke Blocks and berry blends, her contest planner's mind already working. Sasuke, however, found his attention drawn to a corner of the lobby where a small television was mounted on the wall. It was tuned to a news channel. The reporter, a serious-looking woman, was standing in front of a large, futuristic-looking building on an artificial island. And here at the Ether Foundation's main headquarters in the Alola region, the work to preserve and protect Pokemon continues. Today, the Foundation announced a new breakthrough in understanding the Dynamax phenomenon found in the Galar region. Lead scientist, Professor Burnett, had this to say. The screen switched to a woman with long, dark hair and a white lab coat. While we are based in Alola, the Ether Foundation's mission is global. Understanding phenomena like Dynamax and primal reversion is key to ensuring the safety and well-being of all Pokemon, everywhere. We are committed to this research, no matter where it leads. Sasuke watched, mildly interested. He'd heard of Dynamax, the phenomenon in the Galar region where Pokemon could grow to gigantic sizes. It was a power that seemed almost mythical. The Ether Foundation looked like a noble organization, dedicated to science and Pokemon welfare. But something about the report felt off. The way the camera lingered on the silent, dark-suited security guards at the edges of the frame. The perfectly polished, almost sterile, presentation. His thoughts were interrupted by Sakura. Sasuke, are you going to challenge the gym tomorrow? He turned away from the screen. Yes. First thing in the morning. Don't get your hopes up, a gruff voice said from behind them. They turned to see an older trainer, leaning against the counter, his eyes on the television. The Viridian Gym's been closed for a while now. The leader's never around. Word is, the Elite Four are thinking of shutting it down. Sasuke's stomach dropped. Closed? Why? The man shrugged. Rumor is the leader's some kind of big shot in another region, too busy for a backwater gym like this. Name's Kagaya or something. Anyway, you kids are better off heading straight to Pewter City. That's the real first test. The news was a strange mix of disappointment and relief. A part of Sasuke had wanted to test himself immediately. Another, more honest part, was relieved to have more time to train with Ryolu. That night, they camped just outside the city limits, in a small, designated camping area for trainers. Naruto, against all advice, had attempted to cook dinner, resulting in a pot of burnt rice and Pokemon food that even the ever-hungry Charmander turned its nose up at. Sakura had to step in and salvage the meal, her skills in the kitchen far exceeding Naruto's. As they sat around the small fire they'd built, the sounds of the night filled the air, the chirping of Kricketot, the distant hoot of a hoot-hoot. Sasuke sat apart, as usual, his back against a tree, Ryolu curled up beside him. He was staring at the flames, his mind churning. Sasuke. Sakura approached, holding out a bowl of surprisingly edible vegetable stew. You should eat. He took it silently. Thanks. She sat down a respectful distance away. It's frustrating about the gym, isn't it? It's nothing, he lied, taking a bite. Sakura wasn't fooled. You know, just because we can't get the badge here doesn't mean we can't train. There's a trainer house in town where we can have practice battles. And Pewter City's not that far. It's just a setback. A setback, Sasuke repeated, the word tasting bitter. For his brother, there were no setbacks. Itachi never lost. He never failed. The pressure to be perfect was a constant, low hum in the back of Sasuke's mind. A closed gym felt like a personal insult, a barrier put in his path by the universe itself. Ryolo stirred, lifting its head and looking up at him. Its red eyes seemed to say, it's okay. We'll just get stronger. Sasuke reached down and gently rubbed its ears. The simple act calmed him. Sakura was right. A setback was just a chance to prepare better. Suddenly, Ryolu's head snapped up, its body tensing. It let out a low, warning growl, staring into the darkness beyond the firelight. Sasuke was on his feet instantly. What is it? Naruto, who had been dozing, woke with a start. What's going on? An attack? From the shadows, a figure emerged. It was a man, tall and thin, wearing a dark gray suit that seemed to absorb the firelight. He had a hard face, cold eyes, and walked with an unnerving stillness. He wasn't a trainer, he had no pokeballs visible. He was just watching them. Evening, the man said, his voice flat. Your trainers from Pallet Town. The Uzumaki boy, the Haruno girl, and the Uchiha. His eyes lingered on Sasuke for a moment too long. Naruto puffed out his chest. Yeah, that's us. What's it to ya? The man ignored him, his gaze fixed on Sasuke. Be careful on your journey. The road ahead isn't always safe. He gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod, then turned and melted back into the shadows from which he came. He was gone as silently as he'd appeared. Whoa, creepy, Naruto whispered. What was his problem? Sakura looked worried. How did he know our names? And why warn us? Sasuke said nothing, but his hand was on Ryolu's pokeball. The man's words felt less like a warning and more like a threat, or perhaps a test. He hadn't looked at them with the casual interest of a passerby. He'd looked at them with the cold assessment of a scout. Or a spy. The warmth of the campfire suddenly felt inadequate against the chill that ran down Sasuke's spine. He thought of the report on the Ether Foundation, the sterile labs, the silent guards. It was probably nothing. Just a random, weird guy. But as he lay down to sleep, with Ryolu pressed against his side, he couldn't shake the feeling that their journey had just been noticed by something far larger and more dangerous than a simple rival trainer. The quiet shadows of Viridian City seemed to hold more than just a closed gym. The trek to Pewter City took them through Viridian Forest, a sprawling, ancient woodland that separated the two cities. It was a place of dappled sunlight and deep, green shadows, home to countless bug-type and flying-type Pokemon. For 3 days, they navigated its winding trails, and it was here that the bonds between the trainers and their Pokemon were truly forged. For Sasuke, the forest was an intensive training ground. He and Ryolu developed a silent language. A slight shift in Sasuke's weight meant dodge left. A subtle nod meant use foresight. They trained against the wild Weedle and Kakuna they encountered, but Sasuke was more interested in avoiding unnecessary battles and focusing on precision. He had Ryolu practice its quick attack, not just for speed, but for pinpoint accuracy, aiming for specific leaves or branches. They worked on endurance, having Ryolu maintain its battle stance for longer and longer periods. Naruto, in contrast, battled everything. He and Charmander would crash through the undergrowth, chasing after every rustle they heard. Surprisingly, this chaotic method was yielding results. Charmander's Ember was becoming more powerful, its aim less wild. Naruto was learning, albeit in his own, loud, and messy way, to read his Pokemon's energy and push it to its limits. Sakura used the forest as a classroom. She had Midori practice using its vine whips to create intricate patterns on the forest floor, or to gently catch falling leaves without tearing them. She studied the different berry trees, identifying which were ripe and which were poisonous. She was preparing for a different kind of battle, one of grace and skill, and her quiet determination was just as intense as Sasuke's. It was on the final night in the forest, around their campfire, that a new dynamic formed. Naruto, exhausted from the day's adventures, was complaining loudly. Man, I can't wait to get to Pewter City and smash that gym. Brock's Pokemon are all rock-type, right? And Charmander's a fire-type. It's a perfect match. I'm gonna win my first badge easy, believe it. Sakura sighed. Naruto, type advantage isn't everything. Brock's a gym leader for a reason. He'll have strategies you've never even thought of. And besides, your Charmander is still young. One good rock throw and it could be in serious trouble. PSH, details. Naruto waved a dismissive hand. We're gonna be fine. Right, Charmander? The little lizard, who was curled up in Naruto's lap, let out a confident char, before promptly falling asleep. Sasuke, who had been silently polishing his one good pair of shoes, looked up. "You'll lose." Naruto's head whipped around. "What did you say, team?" "You'll lose," Sasuke repeated calmly. "Your strategy is go in and hit hard. That won't work against a rock-type gym. You need to be smarter." "Oh yeah?" Naruto jumped to his feet, startling Charmander awake. "And what's your big, smart plan, Mr. Perfect? Your Riolu is a fighting type. That's even worse against rock. Onyx will crush it like a bug." "He won't get the chance," Sasuke said, his voice dropping to a low, confident tone. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. The statement hung in the air, a quiet challenge. Naruto's face went through a series of emotions, confusion, anger, and then a sudden, sharp grin. "You know what? Fine. Let's make a bet. Whoever loses the gym battle first has to do the winner's chores for a whole month. Laundry, cooking, everything. What do you say, Sasuke?" Sakura groaned. "You two are impossible." Sasuke met Naruto's gaze. The firelight danced in his dark eyes. "You're on." The next morning, they emerged from the forest to find Pewter City nestled against a gray, rocky mountainside. The town had a rugged, frontier feel, with stone buildings and a dusty main street. Dominating the center of town was the Pewter Gym, a large angular structure built from massive blocks of gray stone, its entrance a dark, inviting maw. They went straight to the Pokemon Center to heal their teams after the forest trek. The lobby was busier than Viridian's, filled with trainers psyching themselves up for their own gym challenges. The air crackled with anticipation. While their Pokemon were being healed, Sakura pointed to a bulletin board. "Look at this." It was a flyer for a Pokemon contest to be held in Cerulean City in 2 weeks. The Cerulean City contest. Ribbons and prizes to be won, it read. "I'm definitely going to enter that," Sakura said, her eyes shining. "It's a great first goal." Naruto peered at it. "Contests? Those are the ones where they do pretty moves and stuff, right? Sounds boring. I'll stick to battling." Sasuke ignored them, his focus entirely on the gym. After healing Riolu, he turned to his friends. "I'm going now." "Now?" Naruto sputtered. "We just got here. Don't you want to scout it out or something?" "No." And with that, Sasuke was out the door, leaving a frustrated Naruto and a concerned Sakura behind. The inside of the Pewter Gym was exactly as its exterior suggested, all hard stone and echoing space. The battlefield was a large, dirt-covered arena littered with boulders of various sizes. At the far end stood the gym leader, Brock. He was a stocky young man with tan skin, short black hair, and heavy-lidded eyes that held a surprising sharpness. He wasn't just standing there, he was carefully brushing the scales of a massive, gray rock snake and onyx. "So, you're the challenger," Brock said, his voice calm and steady. He didn't look up from his task. "A young trainer with a Riolu. An interesting choice against me. Are you sure you wouldn't like to wait, observe a few other battles first?" "I'm sure," Sasuke said, his voice tight with focus. Brock finished his task and gently returned Onyx to its Pokeball. He took his place on one side of the field. "Very well. The gym battle will be a one-on-one match. Are you ready?" Sasuke nodded, his hand already on Riolu's Pokeball. "Then begin," an official referee called out. "Onyx, take the field." Brock threw his Pokeball. In a flash of light, the massive rock snake materialized, its body coiling, its screech echoing off the stone walls. It was enormous, easily 30 feet long, a terrifying spectacle of raw power. Sasuke felt a jolt of pure intimidation. It was one thing to see it on a screen, another to stand before it, feeling the ground tremble slightly from its sheer weight. He saw Riolu hesitate for a fraction of a second, its small frame dwarfed by the titan before it. "Remember our training," Sasuke said, his voice low, meant only for Riolu. "Trust me." He threw his Pokeball. "Riolu, go." Riolu materialized, landing in a fighting stance. It looked up at Onyx, and Sasuke could feel its fear through their growing bond. But he could also feel its determination. "Onyx, use bind," Brock commanded. The giant snake lunged forward with surprising speed, its long body aiming to coil around Riolu. "Now, quick attack, straight up," Sasuke yelled. Riolu shot forward like a bullet, but instead of attacking, it used the speed to leap, using one of Onyx's passing coils as a springboard, launching itself high into the air. Brock's eyes widened slightly. "What?" "Now, use foresight," Sasuke commanded from below. In midair, Riolu's eyes glowed, locking onto Onyx. Then, gravity took over. As it falls, use quick attack again, aiming for the gap between its stone segments. Riolu plummeted, a blue comet. It hit Onyx directly on a weak point in its armored hide, a spot revealed by foresight. The Onyx roared in pain, its body convulsing. But Brock was a seasoned leader. He recovered quickly. Impressive. But can it keep up? Onyx, use rock throw. Scatter. Onyx slammed its tail on the ground, sending a shower of sharp, medium-sized rocks flying in all directions. There was nowhere to run. It was an area of effect attack. Dodge! Sasuke shouted, but it was impossible. Riolu was hit by a glancing blow, a rock clipping its shoulder and sending it tumbling across the dirt. It struggled to get up, letting out a cry of pain. Sasuke's heart clenched. He saw Riolu trying to rise, its leg shaking. It looked at him, and in its eyes, he saw the same refusal to give up that he felt in his own heart. It wasn't about winning for the sake of the bet with Naruto. It was about pushing past its limits. About proving that size and power weren't everything. Riolu forced itself to its feet, panting heavily. Brock watched with a new respect in his eyes. Your Pokemon has a strong spirit. But this ends now. Onyx, finish it with tackle. The massive snake lowered its head and charged, a living battering ram aimed directly at the small, wounded Riolu. Time seemed to slow. Sasuke's mind raced. A direct hit would be over. They had no power left for a head-on clash. But what if they didn't have to clash? What if they used Onyx's size against it? Riolu! Sasuke's voice cut through the roar of the charging Onyx. Wait for it. Wait. Now. Use quick attack directly between its legs and keep running. It was a crazy, desperate command. Riolu, trusting its trainer completely, shot forward at the last possible second. It darted under Onyx's massive, charging head, slipping between its front legs as the giant snake thundered past. Unable to stop, Onyx's momentum carried it forward, its head slamming directly into one of the large boulders it had previously thrown onto the field. The impact was tremendous. The boulder shattered, and Onyx let out a dazed, pained roar, its giant body collapsing in a heap, momentarily stunned and tangled in its own coils. The arena fell silent. Onyx was down, struggling to rise but clearly unable to continue. Onyx is unable to battle, the referee declared, his voice filled with astonishment. The winner is Sasuke Uchiha of Pallet Town. Sasuke stood there, breathing heavily, the adrenaline still coursing through him. He looked at Riolu, who was also panting, standing on shaky legs but with its head held high. He ran onto the field and knelt beside his partner. You did it, he whispered, the words full of a meaning that went far beyond the battle. We did it. Brock walked over, a genuine, warm smile on his face as he recalled his Onyx. That was incredible, he said, holding out a small, gray badge shaped like a rock. You used your Pokemon's speed and intelligence to overcome a powerful opponent. You turned its strength into its weakness. That's the mark of a true trainer. This boulder badge is yours. Sasuke took the badge, its cool weight a tangible proof of his first victory. He looked down at the small, metal symbol. It was his. As he walked out of the gym, blinking in the afternoon sun, he was met by two stunned faces. Naruto and Sakura were standing right outside, having clearly watched the whole thing through a window or a screen. Naruto's mouth was hanging open. He looked at Sasuke, then at the badge in his hand, then back at Sasuke. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. The bet was already decided. Sasuke had won. But as he looked at his rival's shocked, yet strangely inspired, face, Sasuke realized the victory over Onyx meant more than a month without chores. It was the first time he felt like he was building his own legend, one battle at a time. The victory in Pewter City did something unexpected to their group dynamic. For Sasuke, it solidified his confidence. For Naruto, it ignited a new, desperate fire. He refused to let Sasuke get too far ahead. He challenged Brock the very next day. And he lost. Badly. Sakura, who had watched the battle, recounted it to Sasuke later. Naruto had charged in with the same reckless abandon, and Brock's Onyx had simply tanked the Ember attacks and swept Charmander away with a single, powerful tackle. Naruto was devastated for about an hour, until Brock, seeing his potential, offered him a rematch the following day. Naruto spent the entire night training with Charmander, not on power, but on dodging and timing, his loud, frustrated shouts echoing through the campground. He won the second match, narrowly. His joy was so immense, so pure, it was almost impossible to be annoyed by it. He ran around the campsite, holding his new boulder badge aloft like a trophy, with a tired but proud Charmander on his shoulder. That's one for me, Sasuke. We're tied, believe it, he'd yelled. Sasuke just smirked. The bet was about who lost first, idiot. You lost. You owe me a month of chores. Naruto's triumphant expression crumbled into one of horror. Their next destination was Cerulean City, a coastal town known for its beautiful beaches and its aquatic-themed gym. For Sakura, it was also the site of her first Pokemon contest. The journey along Route 3 was a series of rocky hills and grassy plains, and the training continued. Naruto, now with a point to prove, was more focused than ever, working on Charmander's new move, Metal Claw, which he'd learned from a TM Brock had given him as a consolation prize. Sakura was practicing relentlessly for the contest, her Bulbasaur, Midori, becoming incredibly adept at using its vines with artistic flair. They would practice appeals in the evenings, with Midori creating beautiful, swirling patterns of razor leaf or using Vine Whip to create elegant calligraphy in the dirt. It was during one of these practice sessions, as they neared Cerulean City, that Riolu began acting strangely. They had set up camp in a small, secluded valley. Sakura was in the middle of her routine, and Naruto was cheering her on. Sasuke was sitting against a rock, polishing his new badge, when he felt it. A strange, prickling sensation at the back of his neck. He looked over at Riolu. The little Pokemon was standing rigid, its eyes wide, staring intently at a rocky outcropping about 50 yards away. It wasn't a look of alarm, like in Viridian Forest. It was a look of intense concentration, as if it were listening to something no one else could hear. Riolu? What is it? Sasuke asked, getting to his feet. Riolu didn't respond. It took a few slow, cautious steps towards the rocks, its body trembling slightly. Sasuke followed, his hand on its pokeball just in case. As they got closer, he felt it too. A faint, humming vibration in the air, a sense of pressure, like the static charge before a thunderstorm. And then he saw it. Half hidden in the shadow of the rocks, a small, jagged shard of crystal. It was about the size of his hand, and it pulsed with a faint, inner, purple light. It wasn't a normal rock. It looked wrong. Unnatural. Riolu stopped a few feet from it, letting out a low, keening whine. It wasn't fear. It was pain. The crystal was hurting it somehow. What is that thing? Sakura whispered, having come up behind them with Naruto. Looks like some kind of weird rock, Naruto said, reaching out to touch it. Don't! Sasuke and Sakura shouted in unison, but Naruto's hand was already inches away. The moment his fingers brushed the crystal, a wave of purple energy erupted from it. It wasn't an explosion, but a pulse. It washed over them, cold and nauseating. Naruto yelped and stumbled back, his eyes wide. For a split second, Sasuke felt a wave of overwhelming despair, a complete emptiness, before the sensation passed. What the heck was that? Naruto shouted, shaking his hand as if he'd been burned. It felt so, sad and cold. Sakura was already pulling out her Pokédex and scanning the shard. The device whirred for a moment before displaying a message, data unavailable. Anomalous energy signature detected. Suggest contacting a Pokemon professor. Riolu, however, was still fixated on it. But now, the look of pain was gone, replaced by a fierce determination. It raised a paw, and Sasuke could have sworn he saw a faint, blue aura begin to gather around it. It was the same color as the energy it used for Force Palm, but it felt different. Deep or... Riolu, wait. Sasuke started, but it was too late. Riolu thrust its paw forward, and a wave of its own blue aura shot out, engulfing the purple crystal. For a moment, the two energies fought, the purple pulsing angrily against the blue. Then, with a sharp crack, the crystal shattered into 1,000 glittering, harmless pieces. The oppressive feeling in the air vanished instantly. Riolu staggered, exhausted, and Sasuke caught it before it could fall. What did you do? He asked, his voice full of wonder and concern. Riolu just looked up at him, its eyes tired but satisfied, and then closed them, falling into a deep sleep. Sasuke carefully picked it up. He didn't know what had just happened, but he knew it was important. The strange crystal, the Ether Foundation's research he'd seen on the news, the creepy man in Viridian City, it all felt like pieces of a puzzle he didn't yet understand. They reached Cerulean City the next day, a welcome change from the dusty roads. The city was bright and open, with sparkling fountains and the gentle sound of waves. Riolu had slept for a full 12 hours and was now awake, but it seemed different. Quieter. More introspective. And occasionally, Sasuke would catch it looking at its own paw, the one that had destroyed the crystal, with a curious expression. Sakura was immediately swept up in the excitement of the upcoming contest. The Cerulean Contest Hall was a beautiful, elegant building, and the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. She spent the day registering and observing other contestants. The contest was the next afternoon. The group found seats in the crowded hall, the air buzzing with excitement. The theme was beauty, and the competitors had to showcase their Pokemon's appeal through a series of moves and performances. When Sakura's turn came, she walked onto the stage with a calm confidence that surprised even Sasuke. Midori stood beside her, its bulb glowing faintly. Now, Midori, let's begin. Sakura announced. Use Vine Whip. Midori's vine shot out, but not aggressively. They moved like ribbons, weaving through the air in a slow, graceful dance. Now, Razor Leaf, but gently. A swirl of sharp leaves shot from Midori, but Sakura had trained it to control their spin. They didn't fly wildly, instead, they spiraled around the dancing vines, catching the stage lights and glittering like emerald confetti. The final move was a perfectly aimed, single razor leaf that sliced the stem of a prop flower, causing its petals to fall in a gentle shower over Sakura and Midori as they took their bow. The crowd erupted in applause. The judges were clearly impressed. She scored high enough to advance to the second round, the battle round. In the battle round, Sakura faced a coordinated opponent with a snubbull. It was a tough match, but Sakura's strategy was flawless. She used Midori's leech seed to slowly drain the snubbull's energy while using its vines to keep the snubbull at a distance, preventing it from using its powerful biting moves. It wasn't a flashy victory, but it was a smart one, and it earned her the contest ribbon, a small, pink ribbon shaped like a shell. When she rejoined them, her face was flushed with pride. She held the ribbon out for them to see. "I did it! My first ribbon!" Naruto cheered loudly, slapping her on the back hard enough to make her stumble. "That was awesome, Sakura! You were so cool! All those leaves and stuff." Sasuke gave her a small, genuine nod of respect. "You earned it. You were smart." That night, they celebrated with a dinner at a nice seafood restaurant overlooking the ocean. The conversation was light and happy, a brief respite from the constant training and the underlying tension that had been building. It was a perfect, normal moment. But as they walked back to the Pokemon Center in the twilight, Sasuke saw them. Two men in dark gray suits, just like the one in Viridian Forest, standing at a street corner. They weren't looking at them. They were looking at a large, holographic advertisement on the side of a building. It was an ad for the Ether Foundation, showing happy families with Pokemon in a pristine, white paradise. The men watched it with cold, analytical eyes, then glanced at a datapad one of them held, before silently melting into the crowd. Sasuke felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ocean breeze. He looked down at Ryolu, who was walking beside him. It was also staring after the men, its red eyes narrowed. The strange crystal, the weird energy, and now these mysterious men again. They were all connected. He was sure of it. The innocent adventure was starting to feel like something far more dangerous. The journey from Cerulean to Lavender Town took them through the rocky tunnel of Rock Tunnel, a pitch-black passage that tested their bond and trust more than any battle could. With only the light of a few flashlights and Charmander's tail flame to guide them, they had to rely on each other completely. They stumbled into Wild Zubat and Geodude, their battles frantic and disorienting in the darkness. It was here that Naruto's boundless optimism was truly tested, and he passed, keeping everyone's spirits up with his silly jokes and unwavering confidence that they'd make it through. When they finally emerged, blinking in the sunlight, the landscape had changed. The cheerful coastal vibe of Cerulean was gone, replaced by a somber, misty atmosphere. The road led them to Lavender Town, a place shrouded in an almost perpetual twilight. The town was dominated by a single, enormous structure, the Pokemon Tower, a 7-story pagoda that pierced the low-hanging clouds. It was a cemetery for Pokemon, a place of quiet grief and memory. Even Naruto fell silent as they approached. The air felt heavy, respectful. The usual cheerful cries of wild Pokemon were absent, replaced by an eerie stillness. They checked into the Pokemon Center, which was much quieter than any they'd been in before. The usual hustle and bustle of trainers was replaced by a somber quiet. While Sakura went to buy supplies and Naruto reluctantly agreed to actually do the laundry he owed Sasuke, Sasuke found himself drawn to the Pokemon Tower. He left Ryolu at the center to rest, feeling that entering such a place with a living, energetic Pokemon might be disrespectful. He walked alone through the quiet streets and up to the tower's entrance. The heavy wooden doors groaned open, revealing a dimly lit interior. The air was cool and smelled of old incense. The first floor was a simple memorial hall, with wreaths and photographs lining the walls. An old man with a kind, sad face sat at a small desk. He nodded to Sasuke as he entered. "Young trainer," the man, Mr. Fuji, said softly. "Are you here to pay respects?" Sasuke hesitated. I'm not sure. I just wanted to see it." Mr. Fuji nodded sagely. "Many come for many reasons. Some to remember, some to understand. The bond between a trainer and Pokemon is strong, but it does not end with passing. Their spirits remain, for a time, especially in a place like this." Sasuke walked up the creaking wooden stairs. Each floor was lined with gravestones, small offerings of berries and flowers placed before them. The silence was profound. He thought about his own team, about Ryolu's fierce loyalty, about the unspoken trust they shared. The thought of losing that, it was a cold, sharp pain he didn't want to dwell on. As he reached the 4th floor, he felt it again. That strange prickling sensation. But this time, it wasn't just a hum. It was a wave of intense, overwhelming sadness. It wasn't his own. It was coming from outside. He looked around, but saw nothing. Then, he saw a faint, purple mist seeping from a crack in the floorboards near a large, ornate gravestone in the corner. His heart pounded. He walked closer. The mist pulsed with a familiar, sickly purple light. It was the same energy as the crystal in the valley. As he watched, the mist began to coalesce, swirling into a vaguely humanoid shape. It wasn't a ghost Pokemon, it was something else. A dark, twisted form of pure energy, with 2 pinpoints of red light where its eyes should be. It let out a silent, ear-piercing psychic scream that drove Sasuke to his knees, his hands clutching his head. Images flashed in his mind, the night his brother left, the feeling of utter abandonment, the cold emptiness of the clan compound, the pressure of expectation, the fear of never being good enough. His own worst memories, amplified and thrown back at him. It was agony. "Get out of my head," he gasped. Then, a blue flash. Riolu was there, having apparently sensed its trainer's distress and raced up the tower. It stood between Sasuke and the shadow, its body glowing with the same intense blue aura it had used against the crystal. It thrust its paws forward, and the blue energy blasted the purple shadow. The shadow let out another silent scream and dissolved back into mist, which was then sucked back into the crack in the floor, which sealed itself shut as if it had never been there. The oppressive sadness vanished. Sasuke took a deep, shuddering breath, the horrific images fading. He looked at Riolu, who was panting but standing firm. You saved me," he whispered, his voice full of a new, deeper gratitude. Mr. Fuji appeared at the top of the stairs, his face etched with worry. "I felt a disturbance. Are you all right, young man?" Sasuke stood up slowly, his legs shaky. "What was that thing?" Mr. Fuji's expression grew grave. "I was afraid of this. For the past few months, there have been disturbances in the tower. Pokemon have become restless. Their spirits seem agitated. We thought it was just the usual sadness, but this..." He trailed off, looking at the now sealed crack. "This has happened before?" Sasuke asked. "Several times. We've had researchers from various organizations come to investigate. Most recently, a team from the Ether Foundation." Mr. Fuji's brow furrowed. "They brought strange equipment, set up monitors. They said they were trying to understand the spiritual energy to help Pokemon pass on more peacefully. But after they left, the disturbances got worse." Sasuke's blood ran cold. The Ether Foundation. Again. They weren't just researching, they were agitating something. Experimenting. The crystal on the road, the shadow in the tower, it was all connected. That night, back at the Pokemon Center, Sasuke told Naruto and Sakura everything. He told them about the shadow, the memories it had forced on him, and Mr. Fuji's words about the Ether Foundation. Naruto's face was uncharacteristically serious. "So those creepy suit guys, they're from that Ether place? And they're doing weird experiments?" "It looks that way," Sasuke said. "That crystal on the road, and now this, they're messing with something they don't understand. And it's hurting Pokemon. And people." Sakura looked pale. The Ether Foundation is supposed to be a good organization. They're on the news all the time, talking about protecting Pokemon. If this is true... "It's true," Sasuke said, his voice hard. "I felt it. Riolu felt it. And it stopped it, both times. Riolu's aura, it's connected to this energy somehow. It can counter it." Riolu, curled up on the bed beside Sasuke, opened one eye and gave a small, affirmative cry. Naruto slammed his fist on the table. "Then we've gotta stop them. We can't let some jerks in suits hurt Pokemon." "How?" Sakura asked. "We're just kids on a journey. They're a huge, global organization." Sasuke stared out the window at the dark silhouette of the Pokemon Tower. "We don't stop them. Not yet. But we watch. We learn. We collect proof. And we get stronger." He looked down at Riolu. "Whatever's coming, we're going to need to be ready for it." The carefree journey was officially over. A new one, darker and more dangerous, had begun. And at its center was a mystery they were only just beginning to unravel, a mystery tied to his partner's strange power and the shadowy machinations of an organization that wore the mask of a benefactor. From Lavender Town, their journey took them south, back towards the coast and the bustling port city of Vermilion. The change in atmosphere was jarring. The somber quiet of Lavender gave way to the raucous energy of a major shipping hub. The air smelled of salt and fish and engine oil, and the streets were crowded with sailors, traders, and trainers from all over the world. Their goal was the Vermilion Gym, an infamous puzzle box of a place where trainers had to navigate a darkened room filled with invisible trash cans to find the gym leader, Lieutenant Surge. But their attention, and the attention of nearly every trainer in the city, was captured by a magnificent ship docked at the harbor, the SSN. It was a luxury cruise liner, gleaming white and gold, and it was in port for only 1 week. A ticket for a young trainer was a golden opportunity to battle with international trainers, see amazing Pokemon from other regions, and experience a taste of high-class travel. By some stroke of luck, or perhaps fate, a kind officer at the port handed them 3 complimentary tickets, impressed by the badges Sasuke and Naruto already wore. The ship was a world unto itself. Polished decks, elegant ballrooms, a swimming pool, and a massive dining hall. Naruto was immediately overwhelmed, his head swiveling in every direction, trying to see everything at once. Sakura was in heaven, admiring the fashions of the other passengers and dreaming of the contest she could one day win on a ship like this. Sasuke, however, remained watchful. A gathering of this many people and Pokemon was the perfect place for spies. He kept Riolu close, its senses sharper than his own. They walked the decks, observing the other trainers. He saw a young man from Hoenn with a powerful Grovyle, a girl from Sinnoh whose Piplup performed adorable tricks, and a boisterous group from Unova whose Pokemon seemed to be in a constant state of battle. It was on the second day, as the ship sailed through calm, sun-dappled waters, that Sasuke felt it. A familiar, calm, and overwhelmingly powerful presence. He turned, and there, leaning against the railing at the bow of the ship, looking out at the endless blue ocean, was his brother. Itachi Uchiha. He was dressed simply, in dark, comfortable clothes, a far cry from the elaborate champion's regalia Sasuke had seen in photographs. His long black hair moved gently in the sea breeze. He didn't turn as Sasuke approached, but he spoke, his voice as calm and measured as Sasuke remembered. The sea is a wonderful thing. It stretches on forever, hiding countless mysteries in its depths. A bit like a journey, don't you think? Sasuke stopped a few feet away, his heart hammering against his ribs. 1,000 questions, 1,000 accusations, 1,000 pleas fought for dominance in his mind. All that came out was a single, choked word. Itachi. Itachi finally turned. His dark eyes, so like Sasuke's own, held a deep, unreadable sadness. They swept over Sasuke, taking in his posture, his clothes, the pokeball on his belt. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. You've grown. And you've earned your first badge. Brox. A good start. You've been watching me? Sasuke's voice was tight. From a distance. I like to keep an eye on promising new trainers. He paused. Especially my brother. The words, meant to be kind, felt like a cold hand squeezing Sasuke's heart. Then why did you leave? The question, buried for years, erupted from him, raw and angry. Why did you just disappear? You were supposed to be my brother, my mentor, and you just left. To become champion. You abandoned me. Itachi's expression didn't change, but a flicker of something pain, regret, passed through his eyes. I had my reasons, Sasuke. Reasons that are bigger than you, bigger than me, bigger than our family. What reasons could possibly be bigger than family? Sasuke's voice rose, drawing a few glances from other passengers. Riolu, sensing its trainer's distress, pressed against his leg. Itachi was silent for a long moment. He looked back out at the sea. There are things in this world, Sasuke, that threaten the peace we all take for granted. Threats that operate in the shadows, wearing masks of benevolence. My role as champion isn't just about being the strongest trainer. It's about being a shield. A protector. And sometimes, to protect the ones you love, you have to distance yourself from them. Sasuke's mind flashed to the men in gray suits, the purple crystal, the shadow in Lavender Tower. You're talking about the Ether Foundation. Now it was Itachi's turn to show a flicker of surprise. He looked back at his brother, a new respect in his gaze. You've noticed them. Good. You're more observant than I was at your age. They're doing something, Sasuke pressed. Something bad. They're experimenting with some kind of energy. It hurts Pokemon. It creates shadows. Itachi nodded slowly. They're researching infinity energy. It's the life force that flows through all living things, but it's especially strong in Pokemon, and in certain people. The Ether Foundation, or at least the faction within it that is running this operation, is trying to weaponize it. To control it. They're after the ultimate source, the energy of legendary Pokemon. Legendary Pokemon. The words hung in the air, heavy with mythical weight. The man in charge, Itachi continued, his voice dropping even lower, is not the public face of the Foundation. His name is Danzo Shimura. He operates from the shadows, manipulating events, using the Foundation's good name as a cover for his experiments. He is dangerous, Sasuke. More dangerous than you can imagine. Why are you telling me this? Sasuke asked, his anger giving way to a cold, focused dread. Because you are already involved. Your Riolu, its aura is special. It's a natural conduit for infinity energy. That's why it could destroy the crystal, and why it could banish the shadow. Danzo's people will have noted this. They will be watching you, if they aren't already. You are in danger. Sasuke felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ocean breeze. He looked down at Riolu, who gazed back at him with unwavering trust. The danger wasn't just a vague possibility anymore. It was real, and it was aimed directly at them. I won't stop, Sasuke said, his voice hardening with resolve. I won't let them hurt my friends or my Pokemon. I'll get stronger, and I'll stop them. For the first time, a genuine, warm smile touched Itachi's lips. It was a smile of pride. I know you won't. That's why I'm not going to ask you to turn back. But I will give you this. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, clear orb. Inside, a faint, dark energy seemed to swirl. This is a piece of a similar crystal to the one you found. It's inert now, but it will resonate if it gets near a larger source of that corrupted energy. It may help you find them or avoid them. Sasuke took the orb, its surface cool and smooth. Thank you. Itachi nodded. Train hard. Trust your partner. And be careful, Sasuke. The path you're on is not an easy one. He turned to leave, but paused. I am proud of you. I always have been. And then he was gone, melting into the crowd of passengers as silently as he had appeared. Sasuke stood at the railing for a long time, the small orb clutched in his hand, staring out at the endless sea. He had more questions than answers, but one thing was clear. The journey was no longer just about badges and the League. It was about stopping a shadow, and protecting the ones he was beginning to realize he truly cared about. The encounter with Itachi left Sasuke with a renewed, almost desperate, sense of purpose. He trained with Ryoru with an intensity that bordered on obsession. The orb from Itachi was never far from his side, a cold, constant reminder of the threat that lurked in the shadows. He'd take it out at night, staring at the faint swirl of darkness within, willing it to give up its secrets. After the SSN departed, they finally challenged the Vermilion Gym. It was as annoying as the rumors suggested. They had to feel around in the dark for hidden switches to open the path to the leader. Naruto, with his characteristic lack of patience, simply got lost and ended up accidentally stumbling into the main arena after an hour of frustrated wandering. Sasuke, using his Sharingan-like focus, though he didn't have the actual eye, methodically mapped out the floor and found the switches in half the time. The battle against Lieutenant Surge, the Lightning American, was a trial by fire. His Reichu was a beast of pure, focused power, its attacks devastatingly fast. Sasuke's strategy from the pewter gym, using speed and intelligence against overwhelming power, was tested to its absolute limit. Ryoru danced and weaved, but one solid thunderbolt would have ended the match. It was a battle of inches. In the end, Sasuke won by having Ryoru use its newly mastered Force Palm not as a direct attack, but as a deflective shield, disrupting the electrical field around Reichu just long enough for a final, precise quick attack to the jaw. It was his hardest won victory yet, and it earned him the Thunder Badge. Naruto's battle was, predictably, a chaotic spectacle. He tried to have Charmander use Ember, which was completely ineffective against an electric type. He lost, but he learned. Lieutenant Surge, amused by the boy's spirit, gave him a rematch the next day. Naruto, having bought a TM for Dig at the local Pokemart, had Charmander tunnel underground, avoiding Reichu's attacks and popping up to land a surprise hit. He won by the skin of his teeth, his victory scream echoing through the gym for hours. It was as they were leaving Vermilion, heading north towards the cycling road and Saffron City, that the orb finally reacted. They were camping in a small patch of forest just off the main route. The night was quiet, the only sound the crackling of their campfire. Sasuke was, as usual, sitting apart, Ryoru in his lap. He had taken out the orb, idly turning it over in his fingers. Suddenly, the faint swirl inside began to pulse, a slow, rhythmic beat of dark light, like a heartbeat. Sasuke froze. It's active, he whispered. Ryoru was instantly alert, its head snapping up, its red eyes scanning the darkness. The pulsing was getting faster, more insistent. He stood up, gesturing for Naruto and Sakura to be quiet. They saw his expression and immediately fell silent, dousing the fire. Holding the orb out like a dowsing rod, Sasuke moved into the trees. The orb pulsed stronger as he moved in a specific direction. They followed. After about 10 minutes of silent walking, they came to the edge of a small clearing. And what they saw made them all freeze. In the center of the clearing, a team of 6 people in the gray suits of the Ether Foundation were setting up a complex piece of machinery. It was a large, metallic device with a central glass chamber and several antennae pointing at the sky. Wires ran from it to a portable generator. But that wasn't the most disturbing part. The most disturbing part was the cage beside the machine. Inside, sitting with its head bowed, was a small, fox-like Pokemon. An EV. Its fur was matted, and it trembled with fear. Around the clearing, floating in the air, were several of the purple shadows, the same kind Sasuke had seen in Lavender Tower. They swirled around the device, seemingly drawn to it, feeding it with their dark energy. One of the suited men was speaking into a communicator. The lure is working. We're getting a consistent energy reading from the captured specimen. The infinity energy extraction is at 15%. We should have enough to power the resonance cascade within the hour. Naruto's fists clenched. They're hurting that EV, he hissed, his voice trembling with rage. We have to do something. Wait, Sasuke commanded, his mind racing. There were 6 of them. They probably had Pokemon. A direct attack was suicide. But they couldn't just do nothing. We need a plan, Sakura whispered, her face pale but her eyes sharp. Sasuke, the shadows. Ryoru can banish them, right? If we can get rid of the shadows, maybe the machine will stop working. Sasuke nodded. But I'll need to get close. And we'll need to deal with the guards. Leave the guards to me, a new, quiet voice said from behind them. They spun around. Standing there, cloaked in the darkness of the trees, was a tall, imposing figure. He had long, white hair, dark skin, and wore the simple robes of a wandering monk. On his shoulders sat a small, green Pokemon with a large, yellow seed on its back, a sunkern. It was an odd, gentle companion for such a powerful-looking man. My name is Jiraiya, the man said, his voice a low rumble. And I've been tracking these fools for weeks. Itachi sent me to keep an eye on you. He looked down at them, his eyes crinkling with a hint of a smile. Seems like you found them yourself. Good instincts. Now, let's give them a lesson they won't forget. Jiraiya moved with a speed that belied his size. He didn't even use a pokeball. Gamaken, let's go. The sunkern on his shoulder suddenly glowed, and in its place was a massive, toad-like Pokemon, a Golduck? No, it was different. It was a giant, blue toad with a sturdy-looking hat and a ladle. A Pokemon Sasuke had never seen before. It was Jiraiya's partner. The battle was swift and decisive. Jiraiya and Gamaken, as he called his Pokemon, created a massive distraction, drawing the attention of the guards and their Pokemon, a few Rattata and a rather pathetic-looking coughing. While they were focused on the giant toad, Sasuke made his move. He and Riolu dashed into the clearing, heading straight for the machine. The shadows immediately sensed them, swirling down with hostile intent. Sasuke felt the wave of despair wash over him, but he pushed through it, focusing on Riolu. Now, Riolu. Use your aura. Like you did before. Riolu stopped, closed its eyes, and focused. This time, the blue aura that enveloped it was stronger than ever before. It wasn't just a defensive shimmer, it was a blazing, brilliant light. Riolu's eyes snapped open, glowing with pure blue energy. It thrust its paws forward, and a wave of blue light erupted from its entire body, washing over the clearing like a tidal wave. The shadows screamed their silent screams as the blue light touched them, dissolving instantly into harmless mist. The machine sparked and fizzed, the energy feedback destroying its internal components. The guards, distracted by Jiraiya, were quickly tied up with some rope Sakura had in her pack. As the blue light faded, Riolu collapsed, utterly exhausted. Sasuke caught it, holding it close. You did it again, he whispered. Naruto had run straight for the cage. He wrenched the door open. It's okay, little guy. You're safe now. The Eevee looked up at him with huge, frightened eyes. It trembled for a moment, then, sensing the genuine warmth and kindness in Naruto's voice, took a hesitant step forward and nuzzled against his hand. Jiraiya walked over, surveying the damage. Clean work, kid. Your Riolu has a gift. A rare one. He looked at Naruto, who was gently holding the Eevee. And you. That Eevee will need a good home. Someone who can show it the trust and love those monsters try to steal from it. Think you're up for it? Naruto's face lit up brighter than the sun. Me? You mean? I can keep it? He looked down at the Eevee, who was now looking up at him with something like hope in its eyes. Of course I can. We're gonna be best friends, believe it. I'll call you Karama. The Eevee, now Karama, let out a happy little cry, and in that moment, a new, powerful bond was forged. The night's dark work had ended with a new light, a new friend, and the terrifying confirmation that their enemy was real, ruthless, and close. The game was afoot, and they were no longer just players, they were targets. After the battle in the clearing, Jiraiya helped them destroy the remaining equipment and made sure the Ether Foundation agents were securely tied up for the local authorities to find. He then led them to a small, hidden hot spring deep in the forest, a place he frequented, he claimed, for research purposes. While Sakura vehemently refused to join them, Sasuke and Naruto soaked in the warm water, the tension of the night slowly melting away. Jiraiya, lounging on a rock with a contented sigh, explained more. The Ether Foundation is just the public face. The real power behind this operation is a man named Danzo Shimura. He runs a covert branch called Root. They answer to no one. Their goal is absolute control over Pokemon, over people, over the very fabric of the world. They see legendary Pokemon not as beings to be revered, but as weapons to be wielded. How do you know all this? Sasuke asked, the steam rising around him. Jiraiya's eyes grew serious. Because I used to work for them. A long time ago. I was a researcher, studying the same infinity energy they're now trying to weaponize. I saw the direction they were heading, the cruelty, the utter lack of regard for life. I couldn't be a part of it. So I left. And I've been fighting them ever since, in my own way. He looked at Sasuke. Your brother, Itachi, he's our greatest asset inside the system. As champion, he can influence things, keep tabs on their movements, and protect trainers from their worst excesses. But even he has limits. Danzo is patient, cunning, and utterly ruthless. The next morning, Jiraiya gave them each a small, earpiece-like device. These are communicators. They're keyed to a secure frequency. If you see anything, hear anything, or get into trouble, use them. I have allies scattered across the regions. We may be able to help. He left them at the edge of the forest, with a final, booming laugh and a promise to meet again. Train hard, kids. The real fight hasn't even started yet. Their journey continued, but the shadow of Root loomed over them constantly. They challenged the Saffron Gym, a psychic-type labyrinth, and both Sasuke and Naruto earned their marsh badges. Naruto's new partner, Kurama the EV, proved to be incredibly adaptable, its moves shifting to complement Naruto's chaotic style. It was clear the little Pokemon had already formed an unbreakable bond of gratitude and trust with its new trainer. They traveled to Fuchsia City, navigating the treacherous Safari Zone to earn their soul badges. Sakura, meanwhile, continued her contest career, winning a second ribbon in Fuchsia with a breathtaking performance that showcased Midori's new, powerful Solar Beam move. Through it all, the communicator remained silent. The orb remained inert. It was an uneasy piece. It was shattered when they reached Seafoam Islands, on their way to Cinnabar Island. They were traversing the icy caves, a necessary shortcut, when the orb in Sasuke's pocket began to pulse violently. This was no small crystal or contained shadow. This was massive. They followed the pulse deeper into the caves, past icy platforms and freezing pools of water. The air grew colder, heavier. Finally, they entered a massive, central cavern. And what they saw stopped them dead in their tracks. In the center of the cavern, a huge machine, 10 times the size of the one in the forest, hummed with dark energy. It was surrounded by dozens of Root agents, all in their gray suits, all working with cold efficiency. Cables as thick as a person's arm snaked from the machine and attached to two enormous, crystalline pillars that had been driven into the ice. And between those pillars, trapped in a shimmering, purple energy field, was a Pokemon. It was Articuno, the legendary bird of ice. Its beautiful, blue feathers were dull, frost clinging to them unnaturally. Its long, elegant tail feathers were limp. Its eyes were closed, and its body trembled with the effort of resisting the machine that was draining its energy. They're draining a legendary Pokemon, Sakura whispered, her voice full of horror. Naruto's face was a mask of pure rage. We have to stop them. Now. But before they could move, a voice, cold and dry as dust, spoke from the shadows. So, the little spies finally arrive. A man stepped out from behind the machine. He was old, with wrinkled skin, a cane in one hand, and his right eye and arm were covered in bandages. This was Danzo Shimura. He looked at them with his one visible eye, which held no warmth, no humanity, only a cold, calculating ambition. Itachi's brother, he said, his gaze settling on Sasuke. And the boy with the Ninetales namesake. How quaint. You've been a nuisance, destroying my equipment, freeing my test subjects. But it ends here. He raised his cane, and from the shadows behind him, two massive Pokemon emerged. One was a dark, imposing creature with a helmet-like head, a Weevil. The other was a hulking, green beast with a flower on its back, a Venusaur. They were not ordinary Pokemon. They radiated a dark, corrupted energy, their eyes glowing with the same purple light as the shadows. You see, Danzo said, his voice dripping with condescension, legendary Pokemon are the ultimate source of infinity energy. By harnessing Articuno's power, we can unlock the secrets of primal reversion, control the Dynamax phenomenon. We can create the ultimate weapon, a power that will reshape this world into one of perfect, absolute order. He gestured with his cane. Seize them. The Riolu is to be brought to me alive. Its unique aura will be a valuable addition to my collection. The Weevil and Venusaur lunged forward. There was no time to think, only to react. The battle for Seafoam Islands had begun. The cavern erupted into chaos. The Weevil was blindingly fast, a blur of dark claws and ice. The Venusaur was a walking fortress, unleashing waves of razor-sharp leaves and poisonous sludge. Naruto and Sasuke fought back to back, their Pokemon responding with desperate courage. Charmander, use Metal Claw on that Weevil. Kurama, use Quick Attack to keep it off balance. Naruto yelled, his voice a raw shout over the roar of the machine. Sasuke's focus was absolute. Riolu, Foresight on Venusaur. Find a weak point. Then Force Palm. But the Root Pokemon were different. They didn't flinch, they didn't tire, and they followed Danzo's cold commands with chilling precision. The Venusaur took Riolu's Force Palm and barely staggered, retaliating with a Vine Whip that sent Riolu crashing into an icy wall. Charmander landed a hit on the Weevil, but the Dark-type Pokemon just laughed a hissing laugh and slashed back, sending Charmander skidding across the ice. Sakura tried to help, sending Midori in to use Leech Seed on the Venusaur, but the seeds withered and died on contact with the corrupted energy surrounding it. We're outmatched, she cried, ducking behind a pillar to avoid a stray razor leaf. Danzo watched, a faint, satisfied smile on his lips. Pathetic. The bonds you speak of so highly are a weakness. True power is control. Absolute control. Sasuke's mind raced. Danzo was wrong. The bonds weren't a weakness. They were the source of their strength.
He looked at Ryolu, struggling to its feet, its eyes filled with determination.
He looked at Naruto, who had Kurama cradled in one arm while shouting encouragement to a dazed Charmander. He saw Sakura, refusing to flee, using her knowledge to try and find a way to disrupt the machine. And then he saw it. Tied around Danzo's wrist, hidden beneath his sleeve, was a band of pure, dark crystal.
It pulsed with the same energy as the machine.
It was his focus, his connection to the corrupted power. Ryolu, Sasuke said, his voice low but clear. The crystal on his wrist. That's the source.
If we break it, we might break their connection. Ryolu's eyes focused. It nodded. Cover me. Sasuke yelled to Naruto. On it.
Naruto, with a surge of pure will, recalled Charmander and Kurama to their balls for their safety, then stood directly in the path of the Weevil and Venusaur, his arms outstretched.
Hey, you overgrown lizard and ice weasel. You want to get to them, you gotta go through me. And I'm a lot tougher than I look, believe it. The distraction was all Sasuke needed. He and Ryolu shot forward, weaving between the legs of the towering Venusaur, dodging a swipe from the Weevil. They closed the distance to Danzo in seconds.
The old man's eye widened in surprise for a fraction of a second, then narrowed. Foolish child. He raised his cane, which began to glow with purple energy. But Ryolu was faster. It leapt, its body blazing with that brilliant, pure blue aura. It wasn't an attack born of anger, but of pure, protective love for its trainer, for its friends, for all the Pokemon being hurt by this madman. Ryo, it cried, and slammed its paw, encased in the blue aura, directly onto the dark crystal on Danzo's wrist.
The result was instantaneous and catastrophic.
The crystal shattered with a sound like a thunderclap.
A wave of purple energy erupted from Danzo, throwing him back against the machine.
The machine itself sparked and groaned, the energy field around Articuno flickering and dying. The Weevil and Venusaur froze in place, their eyes clearing of the purple glow as the connection to their master was severed. They looked around, confused, as if waking from a nightmare.
And Articuno opened its eyes.
They were not the dull, pained eyes of a moment before. They were brilliant, piercing, and filled with the pure, cold fury of a legendary Pokemon that had been violated. It spread its magnificent wings, and the temperature in the cavern plummeted. Ice began to form on the machine, on the floor, on the fleeing root agents. Danzo, struggling to his feet, his face a mask of rage and pain, pointed at them.
Kill them. Kill them all.
But his Pokemon just stared at him, then turned and fled into the darkness of the caves. His agents were already gone, scrambling over each other to escape Articuno's wrath.
Danzo was alone.
He looked at Sasuke, his one eye burning with pure hatred.
This is not over, Uchiha. You have delayed the inevitable. Root will rise again. And when we do, you will be the first to fall.
He pressed a button on his belt, and a teleportation device whisked him away in a flash of light, leaving only the echo of his threat behind.
Articuno turned its gaze on them.
It was an overwhelming presence, a force of nature given form.
Sasuke felt Ryolu shrink back against his leg.
Naruto stood frozen, his mouth open.
Sakura clutched Midori's Pokeball. But Articuno did not attack. It looked at the broken machine, at the scorch marks on the ice where the dark crystals had been, and then it looked at Ryolu. It inclined its great head, a gesture of profound respect. Then its eyes shifted to Sasuke. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other. Sasuke felt a connection, not of words, but of pure feeling. Gratitude. Recognition. A promise. Then, with a beat of its wings that sent a flurry of snow through the cavern, Articuno rose into the air, flew through a hole in the cavern's roof, and disappeared into the night sky, leaving behind only the cold, the silence, and 3 exhausted trainers who had just stared into the face of a god and lived. The battle at Seafoam Islands changed everything. They didn't talk about it much at first. The experience was too immense, too raw. They made their way to Cinnabar Island in a daze, healed their Pokemon, and spent a full day just resting, letting the reality of what they'd done and what they'd seen sink in. The news of the incident spread quickly, though in a sanitized form. The official story was an industrial accident at a geothermal research station. But in the underground networks of trainers, in the hushed conversations at Pokemon centers, the truth began to leak out. A group of young trainers had stopped a plot to harm a legendary Pokemon. Names were whispered: Uchiha, Uzumaki, Haruno. The final leg of their journey was different. They still trained, still had their rival battles. Naruto won narrowly, when Kurama, now an Espion after exposure to the psychic energies of the Saffron Gym, used a perfectly timed psychic to counter Sasuke's strategy, but there was a new maturity to them. They were no longer just kids on an adventure. They were warriors with a purpose, carrying a secret and a responsibility. Sakura earned her 5th contest ribbon in Cinnabar, her confidence and skill now matching her ambition. She had become a force to be reckoned with in the contest world, her name starting to appear in the regional rankings. They collected their final badges. Sasuke and Naruto conquered the Cinnabar Gym's quiz-based challenge and the Viridian Gym, which had finally reopened with a new, formidable leader. The final badge was theirs. And then, finally, the road led them to the Indigo Plateau.
The plateau was a city carved into a mountain, a monument to the Pokemon League. The atmosphere was electric with the presence of the strongest trainers from all over Kanto and Johto. The air crackled with anticipation.
This was it. The conference. The tournament was a grueling test of skill and endurance.
They battled through round after round, facing trainers with powerful, well-trained teams. Naruto's energy and unpredictability carried him far. His Charmander, now a Charizard, was a terrifying sight, its flames burning with the passion of its trainer.
Kurama, the Espion, was its perfect psychic counterpart, reading opponents' moves before they made them. Sasuke and Riolu were a symphony of precision.
Riolu had evolved during the tournament, its body growing leaner and stronger, the spike on its chest elongating.
It was now a Lucario, and its control over its aura was breathtaking.
They moved as one, anticipating each other's every thought, their bond so strong it was almost a physical presence on the battlefield.
They met in the semifinals. It was the battle everyone had been waiting for.
The two rivals from Pallet Town, facing off on the biggest stage of all. The stadium was packed, the roar of the crowd deafening. Naruto stood across the field, a huge grin on his face.
I've been waiting for this, Sasuke. Ever since that first day. This time, I'm gonna win, believe it.
Sasuke allowed himself a small, rare smile.
You can try. The battle was legendary. Charizard versus Lucario. Espion's psychic tricks against Sasuke's cold strategy. It was a back-and-forth war of attrition, power, and will.
Naruto's Charizard rained down fire, and Sasuke's Lucario countered with aura-forged shields. Naruto used his unorthodox strategies, and Sasuke predicted and dismantled them. In the end, it came down to their final Pokemon. A battered Charizard against a bruised but standing Lucario. Naruto, with a yell of pure determination, had Charizard use its most powerful move, Blast Burn.
A massive, cataclysmic firestorm erupted towards Lucario. Sasuke didn't flinch. He looked at Lucario, and Lucario looked back.
In that instant, they were not trainer and Pokemon. They were two halves of a single, perfect whole.
Lucario closed its eyes, and its entire body became a beacon of pure, brilliant blue light.
It thrust its paws forward, not with a force palm, but with a focused beam of its very soul, an aura sphere of unprecedented power. The two attacks met in the center of the field.
For a moment, the world was just red and blue.
Then, the energy dissipated, and when the smoke cleared, both Charizard and Lucario were on the ground, unable to battle.
A draw. The stadium erupted.
It was the first draw in conference history. The judges, after a long consultation, declared both trainers advanced to the finals based on their overall tournament performance. It was an unprecedented decision, but no one in the crowd objected. They had just witnessed something special. In the final battle, they faced each other again, but this time as partners. The tournament rules allowed for a tag team exhibition match to decide the champion. Sasuke and Naruto stood side by side, their Pokemon Lucario and Charizard, Espion and Midori arrayed against a formidable team of two Elite Four members in a special exhibition. They didn't need to speak. They fought in perfect, unspoken harmony, their rivalry transformed into a partnership that was just as powerful. They won, not as individuals, but as a team. In the end, the champion's trophy was lifted by both of them, their hands side by side on the golden cup. The crowd's roar was deafening. Later that night, after the celebrations had died down, they stood on a balcony overlooking the sparkling lights of the plateau.
Sakura joined them, her contest medals glinting.
They were quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. Sasuke looked down at the pebble around his neck, the one his mother had given him.
Then he looked at Lucario, standing proudly beside him.
He had stepped out of his brother's shadow. He had forged his own path, with his own partner and his own friends.
He was no longer just Itachi's brother. He was Sasuke Uchiha, Pokemon trainer. It's not over, is it? Sakura asked softly, breaking the silence. Danzo, he's still out there. No, Sasuke agreed, his gaze hardening as he looked towards the dark horizon. It's not over. Naruto grinned, slapping him on the back. Good.
I'm not done beating you yet, team.
And besides, he looked down at Kurama, who purred contentedly, we've got a world to protect, right? And we can't do that if we're sitting around here. Sasuke nodded slowly. The league was just one step.
The real challenge, the fight against the shadows, was only just beginning. But as he looked at his two best friends, at the powerful Pokemon who trusted them completely, he felt no fear. Only a quiet, burning resolve. The road ahead was long, dark, and dangerous. But they would walk it together.
And they would be ready.